My name is Ramona. I'm 27, and I've worked hard for every penny I've earned as a financial analyst. I've always been the responsible one in my family, especially compared to my younger sister, Jasmine. But nothing prepared me for discovering my parents tried to use my credit card to pay $50,000 for her luxury trip around the world. I stayed quiet at first, trying to process this betrayal from the people I trusted most. Before I tell you how I discovered my parents' betrayal, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how I finally stood up to my family's entitlement. I grew up in a modest middle-class neighborhood in Seattle. My parents, Frank and Eleanor Williams, worked steady jobs that provided us with comfortable but not luxurious lives. Dad was an office manager at a local insurance company, and Mom taught fourth grade at the elementary school a few miles from our house. We never went hungry, but designer clothes and exotic vacations weren't part of our reality. From the beginning, there was a clear difference in how my parents treated me and my sister Jasmine. She's only 2 years younger than me, but you'd think we grew up in completely different families. While I was expected to earn my allowance through chores and maintain straight A's, Jasmine somehow got money just for existing and received celebration dinners for passing grades. Jasmine is more sensitive, my mom would explain whenever I questioned the double standard. She needs more encouragement. What this meant in practice was that I learned independence early. When I wanted the same trendy jeans everyone was wearing in high school, I babysat on weekends to save up. Meanwhile, Jasmine's closet filled with new clothes each season because she needed confidence. College was where the difference became impossible to ignore. I spent months applying for scholarships, worked 20 hours a week at the campus bookstore, and took summer jobs to minimize student loans. My parents contributed what they could, about $5,000 per year, which I appreciated. For Jasmine, they somehow found enough money to cover her full tuition at a private university that cost 3 times what my state school did. Her apartment near campus had brand new furniture. She never worked during the school year because academics come first. Despite this, I thrived. My combination of financial knowledge and work ethic caught the attention of professors who recommended me for internships. By senior year, I had job offers from 3 different financial firms. I accepted a position as a junior financial analyst at Wilson & Reed, one of the most respected firms in the Pacific Northwest. Over the next 5 years, I worked my way up. Long hours, additional certifications, and consistently exceeding targets earned me promotions and raises. By 27, I was making just over $110,000 a year, had started a solid investment portfolio, and purchased a comfortable one-bedroom apartment in a good Seattle neighborhood. Jasmine's path couldn't have been more different. She graduated with a communications degree, but found the entry-level positions beneath her. She bounced between jobs never lasting more than 6 months anywhere. There was always a problem. The boss was unreasonable, colleagues were jealous, the work wasn't fulfilling. Between jobs, she'd live with our parents rent-free. They covered her car payments when she was a little short this month. They paid her phone bill because she needed it for job interviews. Each time she landed a new position, they'd take us all out to celebrate the fresh start. Family gatherings became an exercise in restraint for me. At Thanksgiving dinner with extended family, my promotion to senior analyst warranted a quick, "That's nice" from Dad before he launched into a 20-minute celebration of Jasmine landing an interview at a marketing firm. Jasmine has such a creative spirit, Mom would tell our aunts and uncles. Not everyone is meant for traditional career paths. She's waiting for the right opportunity to showcase her special talents. No one ever asked about my special talents or what I was waiting for. The answer was nothing. I wasn't waiting. I was building. Despite the inequity, I maintained relationships with my family. Sunday dinners became a monthly tradition once I had my own place. I called my parents weekly. I remembered birthdays and sent thoughtful gifts at Christmas. Family was family, I told myself, even if they sometimes couldn't see past Jasmine's neediness. "You've always been so independent, Ramona," Mom would say whenever I accomplished something without their help. She meant it as a compliment, but the subtext was clear: Jasmine needed them, and I didn't. The truth was, I would have welcomed their support, their interest, their pride, but I'd learned early that those resources were allocated elsewhere in our family. So I built my life on my own terms. I created an emergency fund, contributed to retirement accounts, and allowed myself small luxuries like nice furniture and occasional weekend trips. I dated occasionally, but hadn't found someone worth rearranging my carefully constructed life for. My close circle of friends became my chosen family. Meanwhile, Jasmine's pattern continued. New job, extravagant celebration, sudden crisis, parental rescue. Rinse and repeat. The latest crisis involved her quitting a perfectly good administrative position at an advertising agency because her manager didn't appreciate her creative input. She's too bright for administrative work. Dad defended her decision at our family dinner. She needs a job where she can shine. I nodded and changed the subject. Experience had taught me that pointing out the realities of career progression would only lead to being labeled as negative or unsupportive. What I didn't realize then was that my silence was being misinterpreted. My parents saw my financial stability not as the result of hard work and careful planning, but as evidence that I had money to spare, money that could solve their favorite daughter's problems. The stage was set for a betrayal I never saw coming. It was a routine Tuesday evening when I discovered what they'd done. After work, I settled on my couch with a glass of wine and my laptop to review my monthly finances, something I did regularly. I believe in knowing where every dollar goes. I logged into my credit card account and froze. There was a pending authorization for $50,000 from something called World Elite Travel. I hadn't made any such purchase. My heart raced as I immediately reached for my phone to call the credit card company. Yes, Ms. Williams, that charge was attempted yesterday at 3:42 p.m. The customer service representative confirmed. It didn't go through automatically because it exceeded your daily purchase limit. We sent you a verification text, but it wasn't confirmed. I checked my messages and saw the alert I'd missed during a meeting. Did someone try to use my card fraudulently? I asked, already mentally canceling my card and dealing with the hassle of updating all my auto payments. The purchase was attempted by phone, she explained. The caller identified himself as Frank Williams and provided the correct card details, your address, and the security question answer. That's why the system flagged it for your verification rather than declining it outright. My father had tried to use my credit card. The room seemed to tilt slightly. What exactly was the charge for? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm brewing inside me. It appears to be for a luxury world tour package, a 6-month trip across multiple continents, including accommodations, flights, and exclusive experiences. 6 months, $50,000. My father using my credit card. The pieces started falling into place. I thanked the representative, assured her I hadn't authorized the charge, and asked her to decline the transaction, but not to cancel my card yet. I needed to understand exactly what was happening before taking action. After hanging up, I opened Instagram on my phone and went to Jasmine's profile. Her recent post suddenly made sense. Pictures of luggage with captions like, "Getting ready for the adventure of a lifetime," and "World Tour 2025 Countdown 30 Days." Comments from friends asking how she could afford such an extravagant trip. Her vague replies about making it happen and deserving this journey. My parents were trying to fund Jasmine's luxury world tour with my money. I sat in stunned silence for several minutes before calling my father. My mother answered instead. Ramona. What a nice surprise. We were just talking about you, she said with forced cheerfulness. Is Dad there? I need to speak with both of you, I said. Is everything okay, honey? You sound upset. Please put me on speaker so you can both hear me. There was a rustling sound, and then my father's voice joined in. What's going on, Ramona? Did you try to charge $50,000 to my credit card yesterday? I asked directly. The silence that followed was confirmation enough. We were going to tell you, my mother finally said. It's just a temporary loan for Jasmine's trip. A loan? You tried to make a $50,000 charge on my card without asking me first. Now, Ramona. My father's voice took on the patronizing tone he used when he thought I was overreacting. We know you're doing very well financially. This wouldn't have been a hardship for you. And Jasmine really deserves this break, my mother added quickly. She's been through so much with all her job difficulties. I struggled to find words. So you decided to steal from me? It's not stealing when it's family, my father said indignantly. We were going to pay you back. When how? I demanded. Well, over time, he said vaguely. We thought we could use our tax returns for the next few years. Tax returns that rarely exceeded a few $1,000s. It would take them a decade to repay that amount, assuming they actually tried. Why didn't you just ask me? I finally said. My mother's voice softened. We knew you might say no. You've always been so careful with money. Sometimes too careful, honey. This trip means everything to Jasmine. She needs this experience to find herself. The implication was clear. My sister's desire for an extravagant trip trumped my right to decide how my own money was spent. Does Jasmine know you tried to use my card? I asked. We told her we were handling the financing, my father replied evasively. She's been so excited. You wouldn't want to disappoint her. After a few more minutes of their justifications, I ended the call. I needed time to think. My emotions swung between rage and heartbreak. These were my parents, the people who should protect me, not exploit me. I considered canceling my card immediately, but decided to wait. A plan was forming in my mind. The monthly family dinner was coming up that weekend. I wanted to see just how far this deception went. Would they admit what they'd done? Would Jasmine acknowledge her role? For the next few days, I went through the motions at work while processing this betrayal. I checked my credit card account obsessively, fearing they might try again with a smaller amount that wouldn't trigger verification. The pending charge remained unconfirmed, a digital reminder of my family's betrayal. I moved most of my available credit limit to my savings account, leaving just enough for my regular expenses. They wouldn't be able to try again without my knowledge. As Sunday approached, I wrestled with my decision to stay quiet temporarily. Part of me wanted to explode to demand accountability immediately, but another part needed to understand the full extent of this betrayal. Was Jasmine truly unaware? Had my parents convinced themselves this was somehow acceptable? I needed to see them face to face to comprehend how the people who raised me could justify this action. The betrayal kept me awake at night. I'd drift off only to jolt awake with a fresh wave of hurt and anger. How long had they been seeing me as a resource rather than a daughter? Had all my hard work and responsibility just marked me as an easy target? By Sunday morning, I'd made my decision. I would observe, listen, and then decide how to proceed. No matter what happened at dinner, one thing was clear. My relationship with my family would never be the same again. Sunday evening arrived, and I drove to my parents' familiar suburban home with a knot in my stomach. The modest two-story house where I grew up now felt like unfamiliar territory. I parked behind Jasmine's new Audi, which I suddenly wondered who was really paying for. Mom greeted me at the door with her usual hug. So good to see you, honey. Come in, everyone's already here. By everyone, she meant Jasmine, my Aunt Patricia, my Uncle Robert, and their son Mason, who was visiting from college. The extended family's presence complicated things, but perhaps that was for the best. Witnesses might be useful. Dad clasped my shoulder awkwardly. Our phone conversation hung between us unacknowledged. Jasmine barely looked up from her phone, offering a distracted hey as I entered the living room. Dinner began normally enough. Mom served her usual roast chicken. Dad poured wine. Aunt Patricia asked about my work, the only family member who seemed genuinely interested in my career. The firm just assigned me to a new client portfolio, I explained. It's challenging, but exciting. That's nice, Mom said automatically before turning to Jasmine. Tell everyone about your trip, sweetie. Jasmine perked up immediately, putting down her phone. It's going to be amazing. 6 months, 16 countries, all premium accommodations. I watched my parents as she spoke. Mom beamed with pride, while Dad looked slightly uncomfortable, but still nodded encouragingly. I start in Bali for 3 weeks, Jasmine continued. Then New Zealand, Australia, Thailand, Japan. After that, I head to Europe. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, Amsterdam. Then a safari in Tanzania, and I finish with a month in Brazil during Carnival. That sounds expensive, I said casually, taking a sip of water. How are you affording all that? A flicker of something panic perhaps crossed my parents' faces. Jasmine waved dismissively. I've been saving up. Plus, some investments came through. She looked quickly at our parents. Investments? I asked innocently. Your sister has been very resourceful, Dad interjected. She's got everything figured out. Aunt Patricia looked confused. What kind of investments, Jasmine? I didn't know you were into that sort of thing. Oh, different opportunities, Jasmine said vaguely. Anyway, I've been shopping for the trip. Wait till you see my new luggage set. She pulled out her phone and passed it around, showing photos of expensive designer luggage that probably cost several $1,000s. Very nice, Uncle Robert commented. That looks like the premium collection my boss has. Only the best, Jasmine said with a smirk. I refuse to travel like a backpacker. If you're going to see the world, do it right. Mom jumped in eagerly. Jasmine's going to stay at the most beautiful hotels. Show them the one in Bali, sweetie. More photos circulated, infinity pools overlooking the ocean, private villas with personal chefs. Ramona, you travel for work sometimes, don't you? Aunt Patricia asked. Have you ever stayed anywhere like this? My company has a budget for business travel, I explained. We stay in comfortable hotels, but nothing quite this extravagant. Could you even afford a trip like this? Jasmine asked with a slight curl of her lip. I know financial analysts make decent money, but all you ever talk about is saving and investing. Don't you ever want to actually enjoy your money? The table went quiet. Mom laughed nervously. Jasmine, that's not nice. Your sister is very responsible with her money. Too responsible if you ask me, Jasmine continued. What's the point of making money if you're too poor in spirit to spend it on amazing experiences? Not everyone can be successful enough to see the world like I'm going to. I maintained a neutral expression despite the rage building inside me. Poor in spirit, after what they'd tried to do. I'm curious, I said calmly. When exactly did these investments pay off? Because last month at dinner you mentioned you were between jobs and concerned about your rent. Jasmine flushed slightly. Things change quickly in the investment world, right, Dad? Dad nearly choked on his wine. Yes, well, market fluctuations and all that. I need to use the bathroom, I said, standing up. Excuse me for a minute. In the bathroom, I gripped the sink and stared at myself in the mirror. The audacity was breathtaking. Not only had they attempted to steal from me, but now Jasmine was actually mocking me for supposedly not being able to afford the very trip they'd tried to charge to my card. I splashed cold water on my face and made my decision. The charade ended now. I returned to the dinner table with a sense of calm that comes from absolute certainty. As I took my seat, I casually steered the conversation in a new direction. I was reading an interesting article about credit card fraud this week. I said, serving myself another portion of mashed potatoes. Sounds boring, Jasmine muttered. Actually, it was fascinating. Apparently, family fraud is one of the most common types. People stealing credit card information from their relatives. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. My father suddenly became very interested in cutting his chicken into smaller pieces. A friend of mine at work just discovered her parents tried to use her credit card to pay for something expensive for her sibling. I continued. Can you believe that? Aunt Patricia shook her head. That's terrible. What did your friend do? She hasn't decided yet, I said, looking directly at my parents. But I told her she should probably cancel her card immediately. Don't you think that's the right move, Dad? My father couldn't meet my eyes. Well, every situation is different. Is it, though? I asked, my voice hardening slightly. Is stealing from your child ever justifiable? Who would do such a thing? Uncle Robert wondered aloud. I put down my fork. That's exactly what I wondered on Tuesday, when I discovered a pending charge for $50,000 on my credit card. A charge for a luxury world tour attempted by someone using Dad's name. The silence that fell over the table was absolute. Jasmine's eyes widened as she looked between me and our parents. What are you talking about? She finally asked. Ask them, I said, nodding toward our parents. Ask them how they plan to pay for your 6-month luxury trip. Mom's face crumpled. Ramona, please. We can discuss this privately. Like you privately discussed using my credit card without my permission, I countered. I think we're past privacy now. Aunt Patricia and Uncle Robert exchanged uncomfortable glances. Cousin Mason suddenly became very interested in his plate. Is this true? Jasmine demanded, turning to our parents. Did you try to use Ramona's card to pay for my trip? Dad raised his hands defensively. We were going to pay it back. It was just a temporary solution. A $50,000 temporary solution? I asked incredulously, without even asking me first. Wait! Jasmine interrupted, her voice rising. So the trip isn't paid for. What about the confirmation emails you forwarded me? We were handling it, Mom said weakly. We didn't want you to worry about the details. By stealing from me, I added flatly. Just to be clear, it's not stealing when it's family. Dad repeated his earlier justification. Family helps family. By the way, I said, reaching for my water glass, I've already canceled my card, so if you were planning to try again with a smaller amount that wouldn't require verification, that option is gone. Jasmine slammed her hand on the table. I cannot believe this. I've already told everyone about this trip. I've bought special clothes luggage, everything. What am I supposed to do now? Perhaps get a job and save up like most people, I suggested. This is all your fault. Jasmine pointed at me, her face contorted with anger. You could easily afford to help with the trip. You just want to see me suffer because you're jealous of me. I laughed without humor. Jealous of what exactly? Your inability to support yourself. Your need to have mom and dad bail you out of every situation. Your plan to travel the world on stolen money. Girls, please, Mom pleaded. Let's all calm down. I am calm, I assured her. Very calm. Calm enough to have already filed a report with my credit card company. Calm enough to have moved most of my money to accounts you don't have information about. Dad's face reddened. You're really overreacting, Ramona. We're your parents. We've supported you your whole life. Have you? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm sitting, I've been supporting myself since I was 16 while you've poured endless resources into Jasmine. That's not fair, Mom protested. No, it's not, I agreed. None of this is fair. It's not fair that I worked through college while you paid Jasmine's full tuition. It's not fair that I built my career and financial stability through hard work, while you continually rescued her from consequences. And it's certainly not fair that you decided my money was yours to take, because what I was responsible enough to have good credit. Aunt Patricia cleared her throat. Frank Eleanor, is this true? Did you really try to use Ramona's credit card without her knowledge? We were desperate, Mom admitted tearfully. The trip meant so much to Jasmine and we couldn't bear to disappoint her. And disappointing me by betraying my trust was acceptable? I asked. No one had an answer for that. I stood up, placing my napkin beside my half-eaten dinner. Thank you for the meal, but I think I should go now. You can't just leave in the middle of dinner, Jasmine exclaimed. We need to fix this. My trip is in 4 weeks. Your trip is not my problem, I said firmly. Neither is your disappointment. For once, these are not issues I'm going to solve for you. As I headed for the door, Dad followed me. Ramona, please, we made a mistake. We can figure something out. Yes, you made a mistake, I agreed. A serious one. And now you need to figure out how to deal with the consequences without using me as your safety net. I walked out to my car amid the sounds of Jasmine's continued protestations from inside. As I drove away, my phone began buzzing with texts and calls. I turned it off. I needed space to process what had just happened, to sit with my anger and hurt, without their justifications and excuses clouding my judgment. The family I thought I knew had shown me exactly how they viewed me, not as a daughter or sister to be proud of, but as a resource to be tapped when Jasmine needed something. It was a painful revelation, but also a clarifying one. For the first time in my life, I'd set a boundary with my family. It felt both terrible and necessary, like lancing an infected wound. The pain was acute, but I sensed it was the only way toward healing something that had been broken for far longer than I'd been willing to acknowledge. The week after the disastrous family dinner was chaotic. My phone filled with messages that I read but didn't immediately respond to. Dad sent apologies that still contained justifications. Mom pleaded for understanding. Jasmine alternated between rage and manipulation, her texts ranging from, I hope you're happy you've ruined everything, to, please sis, I need this trip for my mental health. The only message that gave me pause came from Aunt Patricia. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself, Ramona. What they did was wrong. Take the time you need, but know I'm here if you want to talk. At work, I struggled to focus. My supervisor noticed my distraction during a client meeting. Everything okay, Williams? He asked afterward. You seem off your game today. Family issues, I admitted. Nothing I can't handle. Take care of it, he advised. We need you at 100% for the Peterson portfolio review next week. My friend and coworker Talia invited me for coffee that afternoon. We'd started at the firm together and had grown close over the years. Spill it, she demanded as we sat in the corner of the office cafe. You look like you've been hit by a truck. I rarely discussed family problems, maintaining a professional boundary between work and personal life. But the weight of the situation was affecting my performance, and Talia had always given solid advice. I told her everything. They did what? She exclaimed loud enough that nearby tables glanced our way. She lowered her voice. That's not just inappropriate, Ramona. That's criminal. Credit card fraud is serious. I know, I sighed, but they're my parents. Who tried to steal 50 grand from you? She reminded me. Don't minimize this because they're family. If anything, that makes it worse. I've always known they favored Jasmine, but this crosses a line I didn't think they'd ever cross. Talia shook her head. The favoritism set the stage. They've convinced themselves that supporting Jasmine's whims is their primary responsibility, even if that means exploiting you. Her outside perspective helped crystallize what I'd been feeling. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It was the culmination of a lifetime of patterns. So what now? I asked. Now you maintain those boundaries you've set. They need to understand that there are consequences for violating your trust. When I returned to my apartment that evening, I found my parents waiting in the lobby. The concierge looked uncomfortable. These people say they're your parents, he explained. They've been here for an hour. I was about to call you. It's okay, Miguel. I'll handle this. Mom rushed forward to hug me. I didn't return the embrace. We've been trying to reach you for days, she said. I needed space, I explained, leading them to my apartment. I didn't want this conversation in the lobby. Once inside, they sat awkwardly on my couch. This was their first visit to my apartment in over 6 months, despite my repeated invitations for them to see the place I was proud to have purchased on my own. We came to explain, Dad began. We made a terrible mistake. We never meant to hurt you, Mom added. We were desperate. Desperate for what? I asked. To send Jasmine on an extravagant trip she neither earned nor deserves. My father sighed deeply. There's more to it than that. We're in financial trouble, Ramona. Serious trouble. This was unexpected. What kind of trouble? We've been supporting Jasmine more than you know, Mom admitted. Not just the small things you've seen, bigger things. Dad nodded. Her apartment rent, car payments, credit card bills, the time she's been between jobs, which is most of the time now. It's been going on for years. We thought it would be temporary, Mom continued, that she'd find her footing eventually, but she never did because you never made her, I finished. We're behind on our mortgage, Dad confessed. 3 months, the bank is sending notices. We've maxed out our credit cards helping Jasmine. Our retirement accounts are depleted. I sat back stunned. You're about to lose the house. Why didn't you tell me? We were embarrassed, Mom said, tears forming. We didn't want you to know how badly we've managed things. So instead you tried to steal from me. The logic was still baffling. The trip was Jasmine's idea, Dad explained. She said it would help her find her purpose, that when she came back she'd be ready to start fresh, get a real career. And you believed that? I asked incredulously. We wanted to, Mom said simply. When you want to believe your child will turn things around, you grasp at anything. But why my credit card? Why not just tell her you couldn't afford it? My parents exchanged looks. We've never been able to say no to her, Dad admitted. Every time we try, there are tantrums, accusations, tears. She makes us feel like we're destroying her life. So you decided to potentially destroy mine instead, my credit, my financial security. We didn't think it through, Mom said quietly. We just saw a solution to the immediate problem. The trip was already booked provisionally, Dad explained. Jasmine did it without confirming payment. We had 48 hours to pay or lose the reservation and face penalties. She was so excited, we panicked. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache forming. This is so much worse than I thought. You're not just enabling Jasmine's irresponsibility. You're sacrificing your own future for it. We know it's bad, Dad acknowledged. But we thought maybe you could help. You're doing so well and family should step up in times of need. There it was again, the expectation that my success made me responsible for fixing their self-created problems. Let me be very clear, I said firmly. I will not pay for Jasmine's trip. I will not give you money to continue enabling her dependency, and I will not allow you to guilt me into thinking that's what family means. Their faces fell. That said, I continued, I do care about you both. I don't want you to lose your home, but any help I provide will come with conditions. Strict ones. What kind of conditions? Dad asked warily. First, complete transparency about your finances. Second, no more financial support for Jasmine without consulting me. Third, she needs to get a job and stick with it. You. She won't agree to that, Mom said quickly. Then I can't help, I replied simply. These aren't punishments. They're the basic requirements for fixing the situation you've created. You've always been so hard on your sister, Mom sighed. No, I've been realistic. There's a difference. I stood up. Think about what I've said. Let me know your decision, but know that my boundaries aren't negotiable. They left looking dejected, clearly having expected a different outcome. Perhaps they thought I'd be so grateful they hadn't successfully charged my card that I'd overlook the attempt itself. Or maybe they genuinely couldn't see how deeply they'd betrayed my trust. That night, a voicemail from Jasmine. Thanks for ruining everything as usual, Ramona. Mom and Dad just told me they can't help with the trip because of you. You've always been jealous of me, and now you're turning them against me too. I hope you're happy in your perfect little life while mine is ruined. I deleted it without responding and spent a sleepless night wondering if I'd been too harsh or not firm enough. Family relationships were complicated, but one thing was certain, something had to change. The question was whether they were capable of making that change, or if I needed to accept that the family dynamic I'd tolerated for years was fundamentally broken beyond repair. 2 weeks after the confrontation, I reached out to a family therapist recommended by Talia, whose brother had gone through something similar with their parents. Dr. Sarah Mendelsohn specialized in adult family dynamics and financial boundaries. I scheduled a session and invited my parents, making it clear this was a requirement if they wanted my help with their financial situation. To my surprise, they agreed, though Jasmine refused to attend. I don't need therapy, she texted. I need people to stop controlling my life. The therapy office was warm and inviting, with comfortable seating arranged in a small circle. Dr. Mendelsohn, a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, welcomed us. I understand you're dealing with some significant family conflicts, she began. Who would like to share their perspective first? My father started hesitantly describing their financial troubles, but glossing over the credit card incident. Mom added details about Jasmine's special needs and sensitive nature, justifying their actions as necessary support for a struggling child. I listened patiently, then provided my perspective: years of imbalanced treatment, the credit card betrayal, and the ultimatum I'd given regarding future help. Dr. Mendelsohn nodded. What I'm hearing is a pattern that's been established over many years. The roles in your family have become rigid. Ramona is the responsible one who should understand and forgive. Jasmine is the one who needs protection and resources. And you, Frank and Eleanor, are caught in the middle trying to meet everyone's needs, but creating harm in the process. My parents shifted uncomfortably. Let's talk about fairness, the therapist continued. Not because children are owed equal treatment in all things, but because the disparity here has created a situation where one adult child is being exploited to support another. That's not sustainable or healthy for anyone involved. Over the next hour, Dr. Mendelsohn guided us through a difficult conversation about the roots of this dynamic. How my early independence had been interpreted as needing less support rather than deserving recognition. How Jasmine's emotional responses had trained our parents to avoid setting boundaries with her. Jasmine has learned that tantrums work, Dr. Mendelsohn explained, and you've learned that Ramona will tolerate unfairness without causing problems. These aren't conscious decisions, but they've shaped your family system nonetheless. Dad looked down at his hands. I never thought of it that way. The credit card incident, Dr. Mendelsohn continued, was a breaking point. Not because it was so different from previous patterns, but because it made those patterns impossible to ignore any longer. We never meant to hurt Ramona, Mom insisted. We love both our daughters equally. Love isn't just a feeling, the therapist replied gently. It's also a set of behaviors, and your behaviors have communicated something very different from equal love. That statement hit home. I saw my father's eyes grow moist. I'm so sorry, Ramona, he said, his voice breaking. You worked so hard for everything you have. Using your card was a betrayal of everything you stand for. I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway because it seemed easier than telling Jasmine no. That's not the father I wanted to be. His genuine remorse touched me. It was perhaps the first time he'd acknowledged the impact of their actions without qualification or excuse. My mother had a harder time. We were just trying to help Jasmine. She needs us. Does she? Dr. Mendelsohn asked. Or has your help actually prevented her from developing the skills and resilience she needs as an adult? Mom fell silent considering this. By the end of the session, we'd established a tentative plan. I would help my parents create a realistic budget and potentially assist with bringing their mortgage current, but only if they agreed to stop all financial support to Jasmine and attend regular therapy sessions. This won't be easy, Dr. Mendelsohn warned as we prepared to leave. Changing family dynamics never is. Jasmine will resist because the current system benefits her. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is allow someone to experience the natural consequences of their choices. On the way out, my father touched my arm. I'm truly sorry, Ramona. I betrayed your trust, and that's unforgivable. It's not unforgivable, I corrected him. But forgiveness requires change, not just remorse. That evening, I helped my parents begin the difficult process of calling Jasmine. They put the call on speaker in my apartment. We need to talk about the future, Dad began after pleasantries. Is this about the trip? Because I've been thinking, Jasmine responded eagerly. Maybe we could do a shorter version, just 3 months instead of 6. That would be cheaper, right? The trip isn't happening, Jasmine, Mom said firmly, though I could see how difficult this was for her. Not now, not in 3 months. What? Why not did Ramona brainwash you or something? This isn't about your sister, Dad explained. It's about reality. We can't afford it. We can't afford many of the things we've been paying for. So, get a loan or something, Jasmine suggested casually. We tried that, I interjected, by attempting to steal from me. Oh, great, you're there too, Jasmine said bitterly. Family gang-up time. We're making some changes. Mom continued, her voice stronger now. Starting immediately, we won't be helping with your rent car payment or other expenses anymore. The explosion was immediate and predictable. Jasmine's voice rose to a shout. You can't do this to me. I'll be homeless. Is that what you want? Your daughter living on the street because you're choosing Ramona over me. My parents winced, but held firm, repeating the boundaries we'd discussed. The call ended with Jasmine hanging up after declaring we were destroying her life, and she'd never forgive any of us. That was awful, Mom said, wiping away tears. Do you think she'll be okay? Eventually, I assured her. But first, she needs to learn that tantrums don't work anymore. 3 days later, Jasmine showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her normally perfectly styled hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail. Can I come in? She asked, her voice lacking its usual confidence. I let her in, curious about this unexpected visit. Mom and Dad are serious, aren't they? She said, pacing my living room. They've completely cut me off. My landlord called about the rent check bouncing. My credit card was declined at the grocery store. They are serious, I confirmed. They need to be. So what am I supposed to do? She demanded. They've always helped me. I don't know how to do this on my own. The same things everyone else does, I replied. Get a job that covers your expenses, create a budget, live within your means. Easy for you to say. You've always been perfect at all that stuff. Not perfect, I corrected. Practiced. There's a difference. She sat heavily on my couch. I hate you right now. You know that, right? Because I wouldn't let Mom and Dad steal from me to fund your trip. She had the grace to look slightly ashamed. They said they were handling it. I didn't know they were using your card. Would it have mattered if you did? She didn't answer directly. I just wanted something amazing for once. Something that would make me special. The trip wouldn't have done that, I said gently. Nothing external can. So what am I supposed to do now? She asked again. But this time the question seemed more genuine. Start small. Get any job even if it's not your dream position. Pay your own bills. Build from there. I don't even know if I can afford my apartment now, she admitted. You might need roommates or a smaller place. That's not failure, Jasmine. It's being an adult. She looked around my apartment, seeing it with new eyes. I always thought you had it so easy, that everything just worked out for you. Nothing just worked out. I made it work often while watching you get handed the things I worked for. We talked for nearly 2 hours. It wasn't a miraculous transformation. Jasmine still harbored resentment and entitlement, but beneath that I glimpsed something new. A flicker of awareness that perhaps the path of least resistance hadn't served her well. As she left, she paused at the door. I'm still mad about the trip. I know, I acknowledged. But I'm going to try. The job thing, I mean. There's an opening at the coffee shop near my apartment. It's not glamorous, but it's a start. I finished for her. Sometimes that's all you need. 6 months passed, bringing gradual but significant changes to our family dynamic. My parents worked with a financial advisor I recommended and stuck to the budget we'd created together. They were making progress on their debt, though it would take years to fully recover from the financial damage they'd done. The most surprising change was in Jasmine. After the initial shock wore off, she'd found that barista job and remarkably kept it. It wasn't enough to maintain her previous lifestyle, so she found a roommate and downsized her expenses considerably. Our relationship remained complicated. The lifetime of imbalance couldn't be erased in months, but we were building something new, something more honest. We'd begun meeting for coffee occasionally, just the two of us. These conversations were sometimes tense, sometimes revealing, but always authentic in a way our interactions had never been before. I never had to try before, she admitted during one of these meetings. Everything came easily or Mom and Dad fixed it. I thought that's just how life worked. And now, I asked, now I know that actions have consequences. It's terrifying, but also kind of freeing, like I actually have control over what happens to me. This new awareness didn't transform her overnight. She still called our parents when her car needed repairs, still tested boundaries. But when they gently redirected her to solve her own problems, she increasingly rose to the challenge. My relationship with my parents evolved too. The therapy sessions continued sometimes with painful revelations about their fears and motivations. Mom struggled with the idea that her helping had actually been harmful. Dad worked to express pride in my accomplishments rather than taking them for granted. Our first family Christmas under the new dynamic was telling. In previous years, the gift imbalance had been stark. Jasmine would receive expensive presents while I got practical items or token gifts. This year, the gifts were modest and thoughtful for everyone. Jasmine had saved enough to buy small but meaningful presents. She'd gotten me a simple silver bracelet with a small charm that resembled a shield. Because you're strong, she explained awkwardly, and you protected yourself when you needed to. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the harm she'd participated in, but it was a recognition of my right to boundaries. Coming from Jasmine, that meant something. After the holidays, Jasmine surprised us all by announcing she'd been researching weekend trips. I've saved up enough for 3 days in San Diego, she said with genuine pride. Nothing fancy, but I found a good deal on flights and a decent hotel. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Mom replied, and I noticed she didn't offer to upgrade the hotel or extend the trip. Progress. As winter turned to spring, I reflected on how much had changed. The betrayal that had felt like the end of my family relationships had instead forced a necessary reset. The old patterns weren't completely gone, but they'd been identified and challenged. My parents would never be perfect. The years of favoritism had left marks that would always be part of our story. Jasmine would always have a streak of entitlement that needed checking. And I would always carry a wariness born from having my boundaries violated by the people who should have protected them. But we were learning a new way to be family, one based on respect rather than exploitation, on reality rather than wishful thinking, on love that manifested in supporting growth rather than enabling stagnation. The credit card incident, painful as it was, had lanced a long, festering wound, allowing genuine healing to begin. By refusing to be the family scapegoat or piggy bank, I had actually done all of us a favor, though it hadn't felt that way at the time. I sat on my balcony one evening, watching the sunset over Seattle's skyline, feeling a peace I hadn't experienced in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. "Coffee tomorrow. I need advice on opening a savings account." I smiled as I replied with a simple yes. Not because I believed everything was fixed, but because I understood now that healthy relationships require constant tending. They require honesty boundaries and the courage to protect those boundaries even when it hurts. Standing up for myself hadn't destroyed my family as I'd feared. Instead, it had created the possibility of something better: relationships based on mutual respect rather than convenience or exploitation. The journey wasn't over. Real change takes time, commitment, and consistent effort. There would be setbacks and old patterns that threatened to resurface. But for the first time, I was hopeful that we were moving in the right direction. In protecting my boundaries, I hadn't just stood up for myself. I had given my family the opportunity to become healthier, more honest versions of themselves. And that perhaps was the most valuable gift I could have offered any of us. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who crossed your boundaries? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and personal growth. Remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set clear boundaries with those closest to you. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps anyone going through similar family challenges.